All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. Chris Wynn also joining us in studio today, as he does every Wednesday. As you know, we've had a personal relationship, the Vegas Take has, with Michael Avenatti. He started doing our show about 6 months ago. He's been on every week, except for the last few weeks, because he happens to be behind bars in the same cell that El Chapo was housed in. My thoughts on Michael Avenatti have been pretty consistent. If he broke the law, he needs to pay for it. You can't go after the most powerful people in the world without, and if you have skeletons in your closet, people are going to find them. With that being said, he has not been convicted of a crime, and I'm not going to call him a criminal like many people on the right are until that day happens. And by the way, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope he's innocent. I hope he's telling us the truth. So opening arguments have started in the Michael Avenatti case involving Nike. If you recall, Nike says that Avenatti tried to extort them. So there's been jury selection going on the last couple of days, and some of these jurors are just freaking wacko. Whether you're trying to get out of jury duty or not, there are excuses you can make, and then there are just ridiculous things you can say. And I've said this before, if anybody on that jury is a Trump supporter, Michael Avenatti is screwed. One fan said that, of Kobe Bryant, said that he was too sad to serve on Michael Avenatti's Nike extortion trial. That's right. He said, I personally met and have a great deal of respect for Laker legend Kobe Bryant, who recently died in the helicopter crash in California. The possibility that Mr. Avenatti could have extorted money and blackmailed Nike for alleged payment to highly ranked high school basketball prospects is bothersome to me. The judge said, okay, you can leave. I just think that's really weird that he brings up Kobe Bryant in that situation. I just think it's really bizarre and weird. Here's something else. A lawyer, I said a juror, I misspoke. A lawyer involved in this case has been linked to Jared Kushner, and he's been cut from the jury pool in the Michael Avenatti case. This was a potential juror. It happens to be a lawyer that was linked to Jared Kushner, a potential juror. He's saying that he represented the president's son-in-law. This is defense lawyer Renato Stabile. He argued this in court. The Kushner thing is a huge problem. This is just bizarre. How does this guy even get into the jury pool when he's associated with Jared Kushner? But thankfully, a judge said, okay, you're out of here as well.
Well, he gets a jury duty notification. It's not,
I guess.
Obviously what happened.
Yeah, I guess. Then another potential juror said Michael Avenatti is a notorious scumbag who is willing to do anything, including lie and cheat, in order to enrich himself and gain public attention. Wow, it sounds like they're talking about Donald Trump, doesn't it? But again, this is a juror who was probably being honest. Well, guess what? If you hate Michael Avenatti that much, you're an idiot, because you could have actually been on the juror if you kept that to your jury and kept that to yourself and found him guilty. Now, we don't want jurors like that, but if this guy had any sense and he really wanted Michael Avenatti behind bars for a while, he would have stayed on the jury pool. This is the problem I have with some of these people. Sadly, in some way or another, most of us are biased, but you can't be biased when you're on a jury. You can't have people on a jury that have these types of feelings for Michael Avenatti. It's what I call a tainted jury, and it is why O.J. Simpson is still not behind bars right now, because there were people on that jury in the O.J. double murder trial that were not only fans of O.J. Simpson, but only found him not guilty because he's an African American. There were African Americans on that jury that did the Black Power sign, at least one, that was walking out of the courtroom. And that's all it takes is one idiot like that isn't actually looking at the facts in the case, that has already made up their mind before the facts are presented. That is a huge problem for Michael Avenatti right now, because at least half the country dislikes him.
Well, there's a reason why. There's all aspects are involved in jury selection, Brian and JD. It's not just going to be the judge. It's not just going to be the defense. It's not just going to be the prosecution. Attorneys on both sides will be involved in jury selection, and that's how you are able to get a jury that is reasonable when it comes to making decisions like this. You point out, we can't have Trump supporters being on the jury. There may be a Trump supporter or two or three on the jury. The key, I guess, in Michael Avenatti's case, for Michael Avenatti, is that there's not too many Trump supporters on the jury, and you would expect that the defense attorneys would be aware of that and try to make that happen, because he's not going to get convicted if there's one Trump supporter on the jury that is going to be all out to get Michael Avenatti, right?
But, Chris, here's where I disagree with you. I'm not saying this is 100. Hold on, let me explain. I'm not saying this is 100% foolproof. The problem is if you have one person on the jury that's tainted and that has strong beliefs that wants Michael Avenatti behind bars. For example, there are some situations where those type of jurors have persuaded other jurors to vote differently. That is a possibility. I'm not saying that's 100% going to happen. It is not a good thing for Michael Avenatti. If you have a juror like that, no matter what the evidence shows, they're going to try to persuade other jurors in their direction. It's not good for Michael, and his attorneys have to do a really good job in feeding out the jurors and trying to find those that are not biased. It's a very difficult task.
Well, you're not going to get a perfect situation, Brian, where you're going to have the perfect jury for Michael Avenatti or the perfect jury for the prosecution in this case. It's just not going to happen. You want to get as close to a fair trial as you can as far as the jury, people that are going to be on the jury. So I get what you're saying, but you're making a statement that the one person who's a Trump supporter could convince other people on the jury.
I'm thinking of Demi Moore in the juror.
You could also say the opposite, though, Brian. You could say the opposite. You could say there could be 7 other jurors that could try to convince the other 3 of what they believe. You know what I'm saying? We can't get into the heads of the people that are going to be on the jury. We just have to do the best possible job they can, both the defense, the prosecution, and the judge, of getting a jury that is reasonable and rational. That's all they can do, and then hope for the best.
All right. Well, we're also learning some information, though, some specifics about what Michael Avenatti was Googling on his computer. Apparently, he Googled Nike put options insider trading before allegedly, and we don't know if this is true or not, trying to extort Nike for $25 million. Listen, I don't have all the evidence in this case. I don't know exactly what happened. He has not been convicted of a crime. I know he's being treated like a terrorist right now. Which is ridiculous.
Brian, if they're trying to use his Google search history against him, so what? You're gonna convict him of a crime for learning, for wanting to educate himself?
Well, no, that's not a crime.
On a particular. Well, the fact that they're throwing this into the evidence, which they've tried to do a couple of times, and Scott Srebnick has said this is ridiculous. It's completely irrelevant. It's immaterial to what's going on. If the guy wants to read about something, he has every right to do that. As you can't take away someone's rights to Google something.
You can't take away someone's rights. However, you can use it against them in a court of law. And listen, I don't know. Make no mistake about it. I don't know whether Michael Avenatti committed a crime or not, and I don't want to compare it to a murder case. However, I will have to in this point. In the case of Casey Anthony, and I know she was found not guilty, but she looked up, she did a Google search on chloroform, and they used that against her. Obviously, there are a bunch of dummy jurors that found her not guilty, and that's all it takes is some idiots. But I'm just using that as an analogy. I understand what you're saying. It's not breaking the law.
Insider trading is a lot different than Googling, child pornography.
I understand. But
right.
I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying he broke the law, and I'm on his side, and I'm on your side on this. I'm just saying that the prosecutors could.
It just bothers me a lot because it shows how weak their case actually is.
And it might be weak. And listen, I hope it is weak, because if it's weak, that means he's innocent.
Exactly.
And he told us the truth. And he's told everybody.
Well, it does mean it means that he has the possibility of getting off.
It means he's a stronger chance of winning the case.
Yeah. Well,
you bring up Casey Anthony. Can
I just say something real quick to interrupt? There are some people associated with this show that have no chance of getting off. That would be our producer, Jason Stein. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But you mentioned you brought up the Casey Anthony case.
Man.
I think of the Casey Anthony case. I don't know about you guys. I think of it along the same lines as the O.J. Simpson case with Casey Anthony. The perception is, the thought process is, she's absolutely guilty, okay? Much like O.J. Simpson, he's absolutely guilty. However, because he got off based on technicalities or based on, the nature and what went on at that time, in that place, in that trial, they were found not guilty. But there is the consensus, people with common sense, people that are looking at it, they don't think Casey Anthony is innocent by any stretch, as they don't think O.J. Simpson is innocent by any stretch. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is you got to look at each individual trial differently. And with Michael Avenatti in this case, we don't have to speculate. We're going to find out. There's going to be the trial. There's going to be a process. And so we don't even have to talk about details, what we think's going to happen. We're going to see it all unfold right before our eyes.
And to be very clear, if you're one of those people, I said the same thing about Don Lemon and CNN in the first hour. If you're one of those people that is criticizing CNN and Don Lemon for being distasteful or not being professional, also, if you're one of those people that attacks Michael Avenatti 24/7, or you're one of those people that calls him a scumbag, and you keep silent when it comes to Donald Trump, and you keep silent to all those in his administration that have been convicted of crimes. If you're one of those people that thinks Donald Trump is the Messiah and he could do no wrong, but you're going after Michael Avenatti, you are somebody that I would call a biased right-wing buffoon. And I have no tolerance for people like that. Be consistent. If you want to go after Michael Avenatti, then you better have gone after Donald Trump at least for the rhetoric and some of the horrible things that he has said. I have no respect for anybody that is biased.
It's okay to have a preference. I think you're confusing sometimes a preference from a clear-cut bias.
No, I think what Brian's saying, JD, though, is this.
You may like Donald Trump and you may dislike Michael Avenatti. Okay. What happens is when an obtuse thought process occurs, when all the facts are pretty clear in one direction, and you decide that because of your affinity or loyalty to whomever, that it's totally irrelevant because of that. That's what you're describing. But having a preference to one or the other, to me, isn't an issue.
Now, what he's talking about is the people that are hammering Michael Avenatti, but have no problem with Michael Cohen, have no problem with Paul Manafort, have no problem with Michael Flynn, who have been convicted of crimes and are going to prison or are in prison. That is the hypocrisy, I think, that Brian was trying to get at.
So I never thought this day would happen. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mike Krzyzewski going after some fans at Cameron Indoor. We're going to explain why he was so upset. We have audio of Mike Krzyzewski disappointed in Duke fans. What a shocker. Some white privilege college students at Duke were acting like a-holes. We'll explain exactly what that's all about coming up next.